Alright, hey there guys. Punch here. Sleepy as hell, but I want to make a video. This one's not going to be about Smash at all, but it's more going to be about Pokemon. And Pokemon was a series that was like, I've always loved as a kid. Just move up. I've always loved it as a kid, and like, even until now I've loved it. But like, Gen 6 just was bad. Just really bad. And three biggest things are like bad optimization of the game. The game runs like shit. Like worse than any mainline Nintendo game I've ever seen. Doesn't let you breathe at all. At all. And on top of that, this is a small one as well, but I think it's pretty big, but I think a lot of people think it's just like an obnoxious thing to say, but models are actually worse than sprites in my opinion. Not by default, but because they are models. And I'll start off with what I started with, and that's the game runs like shit. I mean, there's not really much to say about this one. It's just the fact that it literally runs like shit. Like, you can't get into a battle without frame rates dropping below 30 FPS. You can't get into a new area with frame rates dropping. It's just unoptimized. It looks ugly as fuck. I mean, there are some DS games that look better, like overworld-wise. I think the models all look really good. But like overworld-wise, it just looks horrible. It's just very, very, very ugly, I think. Like even lower polygon than like some of the Dragon Quest remakes, which doesn't make sense to me. I think it sort of blows my mind that like these Dragon Quest like games like look better, and they were released on the DS in like before 2010. So I don't understand how that works. I guess the resolution is higher, but like surely they care more about how like it looks than the resolution. You know, surely they would put that first. I don't know. On top of that, and this is my main contentious issue, and the reason I really hate these games, is that the most important thing about Pokemon, in my eyes, is like the adventure you go on. And the adventure you go on is like so important that I think a lot of the time the Pokemon series almost gets like too close to like dabbling too hard into it. Gen 4 did this pretty badly, in my opinion, even though Gen 4 is my favourite for like other reasons. Gen 4 had like Cynthia like always butting in. Not always, it's not as bad as Gen 6 where it's honest to god friggin' horrendous. Gen 6 is like but yeah, Gen 4 Cynthia would come in and she talked to you for a bit and fuck off for a bit. But like, it feels like, I swear to god, you like in Gen 6 it seems like every route one of your dickhead friends comes and they say something unimportant and boring, and you're like, okay, just let me go, and it ruins the pace of these games, and it ruins like the feeling of like being let into this world. You know, you're being let out in this world and there's all these amazing monsters, but you don't get to see them because every 5 friggin' minutes this dumb fat ass comes and talks to you about how he loves dancing. I don't give a shit, and I never really gave a shit. I didn't really give a shit about any of the Gen's previous like companions. You know, like I didn't care about May or like Sapphire or whatever you want to call them. Didn't give a fuck about Diamond or Platinum. Didn't give a fuck about, you know, Green and Blue. I didn't care about any of these people. But like, they were like, you saw them little enough that it didn't like ruin the overall experience, and at least gave you like, it gave like, because it was used in like small points, you'd see them every like 4 routes or something. Because it was used so like non-frequently, it didn't really affect you as much. And like, you know, everyone follows a very obvious narrative where it's like, oh, Gen 1, Green doesn't care about his Pokemon. That's why he loses. He's so into like training, but he doesn't actually care about them, so he loses anyway. And that's his like arc. It's not that interesting. It's not that explored, and it might even be a bit underdeveloped. And we don't get to see enough of that. You only see him like 5 times or something, but it's not. That's not too detrimental. Whereas like if he was every route, like yo, I'm gonna kick your ass, and then he loses, and yo, I'm gonna kick your ass, and he loses, and yo, I'm gonna kick your ass, and he loses. It's like it just gets too much, and that's what I think Gen 6 does. It has like fucking 4 companion people plus Sycamore plus the Ranger dude plus like plus the what's her name? I can't remember the Elite Four champion. She's so boring. Diana, I think. I don't know. I'm going to talk about the Elite Four after this as well. Yeah, it's just so bad. I think that's probably the worst part about this game. Now, before I get to my third point, I'm going to bring up what I just talked about, and that's the Elite Four. And the Elite Four in this game are just really bad. And I think the Elite Four are really bad because of one item in this game, which I also think is really bad, and that's EXP share. Not EXP share, EXP all. EXP all gives like the exact same amount of experience points to all of your Pokemon. So that means like they level like they all get the same experience, so you don't even really have to use them, which sort of kills the vibe in my opinion. Like if all my Pokemon are getting experience, it feels like I don't even need to use them. I just have like some fucking Pokemon in the front with like a good enough variety, and then he'll just gain experience points and just break through everything else. And maybe you'll have to switch every now and again because he can't cover every type, but like he can cover enough where it's like you don't really need to worry about it, and you'll just switch him out into one of the other ones. Whereas like the other games, you had to you couldn't take on 6 Pokemon at a time early game, or else you'd have to do all this grinding. But if you really wanted to, you can, because you could do all this grinding. And for people who want to have 6 constant leveling up Pokemon, you can do this grinding. I think they wanted to eliminate that, but they didn't realize that that leads to bigger problems. Because in my current team, I've got 6 Pokemon, all at level 50, and I've only used 2 of them. I've used my Heracross and I've used my Poliwhirl, and it's just kills the vibe, because it's why even have these 4 other Pokemon if I'm only using these other 2? And people might be saying, why are you using only Heracross and Poliwhirl? It's because I only need to use Heracross and Poliwhirl. The only ones I need to use, because I don't need to level up these other Pokemon. I guess it's a bad design philosophy where it's especially for kids who don't really think ahead, I take on 6 Pokemon eventually because I know I want 6 high level Pokemon to face the Elite Four, and not just 2 overblown mons, because you'll never win with that. But it still makes you it doesn't tell you need 6. Of course it implies you need 6 because you have 6 slots, but it doesn't tell you that's the optimal way to do it. And having to only use these Pokemon because you don't want less than 6 Pokemon is sort of a bad, I guess, design philosophy. But even then, I think everyone can find at least 6 Pokemon in every generation that they might like, or even least dislike, And yeah, but the problem that EXP feeds into is that all your Pokemon are way over leveled. They didn't balance this game for shit. I don't know why. They didn't balance this game at all, I feel. I did the Elite Four once. I think I got through it twice. Yeah, I just did it once. I wiped, and then I just did it again and I won. And it's oh, okay. I feel maybe because I was a retarded kid way back and I didn't know team composition, I didn't know all this. So this definitely could be because of my biases, but I felt even up to Gen 5, when I did the Elite Four, it was like alright, shit's getting real. It's gonna be hard. It felt like a fucking, pushing a big boulder up a hill. Whereas Gen 6 Elite Four just felt like I'm pushing a pebble across the road, which I just did not like in any sense, because I feel like that is the magnum opus of everything. It's like the gut wrenching, like, alright, this is the end of the road. This is your last challenge. You really got to push, and it was just like a half-assed attempt, and it ruins the whole game for me, like structure wise. If like there's all this build up to the Elite Four, you're constantly meeting Diane, and you're thinking, wow, if she's the champion, she must be like formidable as hell. No, she sucks. She has like a Swanner on her team. Like, I know you want to give like all these. I know Game Freak wants to give these people unique characters, but there's a reason, like every gen's champion had strong Pokemon, because they wanted it to be a challenge. But like now, I'm not so sure. Yeah. Anyway, that's probably like my biggest problems. I think that Pokemon, in its essence, is at its best when it encourages like the childlike sense of like wonderment and like exploring and looking, finding stuff. Like, I don't think it does story very well. I think Gen 5 story was cool, a bit half-baked, but I think that they're at their best when you're like, I think they were at their best in Gen 4 when it's like Route 217, it's the ice route, the snow route. And you're walking up and like the music kicks in, there's all these effects, there's that one house where it's like implied that it's a Yuki owner living in there. I love that. And then you finally get to like the city, and it's just like you're getting through a storm. You expect this like lively. Whenever I go into towns, I always expect this lively like music and everyone's bustling, but it's slow. And it's like the blizzard has passed, but there's still like a bit of snow, dropping down, and the music's really calm. It's calmed down a lot from when you're in Route 217, and I think it's just fantastic. I think it's like that whole entire stretch is like magnificent. This could be my childhood giving me biases, but it's what I felt, and I think that's the most genuine. I brought up a point earlier and I totally forgot what it was. I don't like thinking about these games. I hate them, actually. I think they're terrible games. I just remembered what I brought up though, thank God. Saved by the bell, Jack. Good work. It's models. Now, I don't think inherently models are bad or worse. I think models are actually better. I think they can convey more stuff than sprites can. Just 2D sprites. Because like you can't really change a sprite. I think in Gen 5 it was the worst, because you had sprites that moved, so like they had to make multiple sprites, so that meant more resources and like, but you get less overall. So like if you take, I'm trying to think of a good example. If you take like Gyarados from Fire Red, I think it was one of the Gen 3 Gyaradoses. He's like coiled up and like angry looking, and he's giving you that sense of like, oh shit, this is like an angry fucking dragon, even though he's no dragon. He's like a dragon-like thing. But when you like actually look at his Gen 6 model, he doesn't do that. He's just sort of like sitting there, and a lot of the Pokemon just sit there until they do something, because it's a lot more economical. You can't be making like 700 different idle animations for all these Pokemon that are unique and change it up every time. That will get really, really fucking expensive. That's why I think sprites are probably better. In that sense, I also like how trainers were introduced in the early games, where it's like you see the whole trainer and then you see yourself, and it's like, it's almost like putting the battle, it's not 100% like not metaphor, but I guess metaphor for the battle, because it isn't like you're not exactly that far away, they're not that small, but I think it gives a better sense of that than the models do. I think the models have a really long way to go. I think this is also why I'm not very excited for Sun and Moon, because they're also using the exact same engine. No, exact. It might be different. It might be like Brawler Smash 4, but Brawler Smash 4 is a very similar engine, and yet it feels and looks very differently. Whereas from what I've seen in the video, this engine looks like fucking exactly the same as X and Y, which is just, it broke my heart. I was like, no, I screamed, and Extra can attest to that. I saw it and I was like, you have to be fucking kidding me. They're using this engine again. But what can you do? Hopefully, I feel like the deadline of having every single language out at the exact same time might have been too much for Game Freak at the time, so they had to rush a bunch of shit. And this is their first 3D foray that Game Freak, the studio, has done. So I guess things are to be a bit rocky to be expected, and hopefully this isn't an ongoing thing, and hopefully Sun and Moon, you know, hopefully there's, you know, not 100 fucking friends that bother you every time. Hopefully it doesn't run like shit. Hopefully, you know, all the idle animations look really nice and they display the actual, you know, personality of the Pokemon. Because, like, I feel like I can infer more from Ferret's personality in, like, one still image of Gen 2 than I ever could from, like, the XY models. It does have this weird thing where you can see the Pokemon and Me model, and I think Pokemon and Me is actually really cool, even if it is, like, undercooked. But I think it's a cool idea and they can expand from there. But, like, I understood more from that one image than I did from, like, watching my like, fully realized Ferret do things, which I think is really sad, because I think Pokemon in 3D is what I've always wanted, you know. So yeah, I hope Sun and Moon's really good. I don't have high expectations because X and Y sucked, and ORAS also ran like shit, and it sucks that, like, one of the better generations had to be so like shafted by a really shit optimization. But what can you do? Not much, I guess. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to be uploading some other random videos on just random topics I have in my head. They're going to be completely unscripted because I'm a lazy asshole. I'm going to ramble, and I'm sorry. That's what I'm trying to improve. These videos are all for improving my commentary. Hopefully my commentary gets better. Hopefully I can express ideas faster. I hear the 5-second rule is good for that, but anyway. Hopefully I go off on less tangents like I just did then. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Good vibrations.